Jump right in.
Hello and welcome to the Wanderers podcast. And so today I'm joined by the amazing Holly Berry. So Holly Berry is an HMMA nominated multi-award winning songwriter based in the UK. Writing credits include Able Faces and Kate Hall, who we know very well. Features with Acko, Ropsu and Tekknological. So in 2024, Holly and her co-writers won the Major Artist category of the UK Songwriting Contest with their song Butterflies. The same year, So Hot with Beat Bakery was featured on BBC Introducing and was track of the day on BBC Radio Surrey and Sussex. In 2022, Holly's song Clean, which is an absolute banger, may I add, which is produced by Hattie, which is, you're going to see her on another podcast. It was nominated for a Hollywood Music in Media Awards in the Sci-Fi Fantasy category. And other awards, nominations, and finalist positions include 3 more wins in the UK Songwriting Contest. That's 2022, 2020, and 2019. There's like a massive list of accolades, so I'm very impressed. And then from March 2020 to 2024, she works as a lyricist for an organisation in New York. But Holly is also a very good friend of mine and collaborator. And as you've probably noticed, I'm in the lovely idyllic setting of Lake Como on a little backpacking trip, and I've managed to track Holly down. How are you doing where you are?
Good. I'm wishing I was where you are, though.
Yeah, I don't think you want all the bugs there at the moment because I've been bitten with an inch of my life. We just love the fact that we can actually have some time to catch up because in our lives we probably don't get a chance to sort of like catch up and talk about stuff. I learned a lot about you actually from just getting a bit of preparation done for the podcast. And what was really interesting for me is that you've kind of made the segue from acting into music. My first memory of actually meeting you was at the Darling Buds farm in Kent. So kind of picture this, there's like a group, probably about 20 people, maybe more. We're all kind of just random singer-songwriters and producers. We obviously learning a little bit about music and the craft. I remember actually you and I being in this big kind of collaboration, there's quite a few of us, in an oast house. It was quite intimidating, wasn't it? It was quite a few of us in that one session, right?
Well, that was like my first ever co-write, really. So the fact that there were about 6 people in it, or maybe more, I can't remember. It was just like a whole crowd of us, and quite a few people were trying to sort of jump in and get their part.
Yeah,
I never do super well in those kind of situations. I like things to be quite laid back and
yeah.
equal, I guess, not a competition.
What probably connected you and I was I had added like a little bit of my life experience to it. And I remember you being such a good listener, but I just can remember laughing like so much. You know, that's probably one of the things that kind of got us through that co-write a lot was just that kind of humor.
Yeah, no, it was really fun when I felt when I really met you, and yeah, it's quite clear.
Yeah. And I suppose for context, it probably give people like a little bit more of an understanding. But Holly, I always imagine you as like I was you like one of the OGs of the Song Sanctuary because we have since obviously gone on to write together lots of times. We've done retreats together. Holly, I always imagine you as like I was you like one of the OGs of the Song Sanctuary because we have since obviously gone on to write together lots of times. We've done retreats together. And actually, now I'm kind of pivoting a little bit to like the first retreat we did in Spain. We'd gone up in a group to this kind of little village up on the top of the mountain and done like a gig for the locals.
Yeah.
And I think a little bit of the sangria had flowed. We were obviously quite merry at this point. And I remember actually Narelle and I had been writing that day. We'd obviously gone a little bit heavy on like the cheap carver. And I remember we were like kind of really hoarse and we were like meant to be doing some songs up there. But we'd met this kind of group of expats. Obviously, they were like, what the hell's going on? Why are there a huge group of songwriters up in like this strange mountain village? And they were like, oh, why don't you kind of come back and have some drinks with us on the way back?
They were very generous, very kind. Yeah, with the house.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as we thought, well, when we kind of arrived, so bear in mind, I'm just trying to kind of recreate this atmosphere, but all these little winding staircases at the top of this Spanish village. So we're kind of following these expats down the hill, just kind of trying to meander back to the venue that we were staying at. Anyway, we arrive at this house. They were like so proud, like showing us around the building, and they were like, look, this is what we've done here. Anyway, we were kind of like in the main living room, and there was this kind of hatch. And so, like, the first thing that I'm thinking is like, oh, okay, well, like maybe they've got like a function room downstairs, or like some kind of like games room, what have you. Anyway, curiosity as it is, we like go down these steps, and again, I'm recalling this from memory. I might have embellished a bit for the podcast, but it was just kind of like this dungeon. I don't know. Do you ever remember that moment when you're a little bit like, is this a swinger's house?
Yeah, well, I think you guys had gone down and said that because there was some sort of nude paintings as well somewhere, weren't
The
there?
nude painting, I completely forgotten about that. He basically got somebody to draw a picture of his wife, and she's basically there with her boobs out on the wall. So that became like a conversation starter. But I think you were brave. Well, I'd say brave enough. You were like wise enough to actually stay upstairs. I think it was Rachel Parger and I and
Yeah,
Charlie Austin, I'm sure was there.
I think you're
And
right.
we
Yeah,
were
I
like
think
went
that sounds
we
familiar.
went down these stairs, and there was this kind of like moment, and I remember like looking over, I think it was at Charlie Austin or Rachel Park, and we were like, is this a sex dungeon? And the thing is, we were like too polite to be like, when it's like time to leave. And the thing is, they didn't ask us to put our keys in a basket or anything. We were just kind of a little bit like too polite to be like, this is a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit sketchy. But I think you like held the fort upstairs, right?
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't part of. I didn't see the dungeon. I missed that pleasure.
Jesus. But like I think we eventually like managed to make some excuses and just be like, right, we're getting the hell out of here. We ended up like going back in, bear in mind this is like a little medieval kind of village with all of these little kind of houses that we were writing in. Let's kind of now segue a little bit into about your first kind of entry into music. I've learned a little bit more about you as I've got to know you, but I didn't realize that you had like a background in acting. But I'm really curious to know sort of like how you first kind of got into artistic and creative stuff.
With the acting, I always wanted to do it since I was a
Yeah,
little girl, but it's one of those things that I don't know, you feel a bit embarrassed about admitting for some weird
yeah,
reason. And I did drama GCSE and got an A and things like that. But
yeah,
um, before I went to university, I wanted to apply for that, and my parents thought it was a phase, so I ended up not. But then I went to
yeah,
uni and got a degree in politics. But during that time, I started doing acting things there,
yeah.
and then I moved to London after Manchester, which is where I was in uni, and I did like a foundation course at a drama school called Mount View, which was in the evenings a
Mm,
couple of times a week and worked during the day. And then after that, yeah, I applied to a full-time post-grad course at a place called Drama Studio London. Had a really great time there and met some
yeah.
friends that I'm still really, really great friends with. Similar kind of people, you know.
Having like that kind of creative mindset that you've definitely got, I'm just really curious to know, like, was that in your home when you grew up, or
My mum
yeah?
taught at school, which I actually have a job at as well as songwriting now.
No way.
Yeah.
Small world.
It was she used to take me to the school plays there, and they were like musicals when I was little. And that was part of what made me think, and it was just school plays, but to me it was
Yeah,
amazing. So between that and going to things at our local theatre, like I remember going to see Carmen and really liking the music, and but
yeah,
also just Top of the Pops. I used to,
yeah.
from sort of the age of about 4 or 5, I remember sort of dancing when Top of the Pops was.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
So just, and she used to play, she had like Beatles records. My mum and dad had Beatles. And I remember absolutely loving that they had a Motown, like best of Motown. So,
yeah,
and those are that's the music I remember from when I was little. And then I remember seeing Fame and thinking,
yeah.
I want to go to a school like that. But I remember saying to my,
Ah,
you think I could go to a school like that? And she said, well, you'd have to get better. And I remember taking that to heart and
Ouch.
pretending it was. I've been deliberately
I
never
don't
said
think she meant
that's
it that way though, did
yeah,
she? But
yeah.
it's funny because like my mum used to work for like an insurance company. They would give you like a family kind of ticket to go and see like a musical, and it was always like the panto and stuff. And I remember like if you haven't sort of gone to see that before, your eyes kind of light up a bit because you've just never really experienced something so immersive. So like I can kind of picture you sort of like little Holly being like, oh, okay, there's this completely different world out there, but there's something kind of like really captivating about it, right? And you just kind of feel like you want to be a part of it, maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe that's it. It immerses you so much that you think, yeah, that's what I want to do. And actually, one of my acting things, I've done sort of slightly more like impressive things. At Christmas, they used to go to schools. They're called the Globe Players, and they go to
Yeah,
a lot of schools that the kids wouldn't otherwise. They have these really, or they used to, I don't know if they still do, really old fashioned flats. We carry the flats in and put them up, and you could look through the gaps. And just looking at these tiny kids' faces, blue, it just
yeah.
incredible. And I guess it was a different version of that. I wanted to be part of that.
For me, I look back at like when I was like at school, and like I actually laugh because I had this kind of light bulb moment where I can't remember what it was. But you know, like those Saturday night TV programs where they would have like people doing like Stars in Your Eyes or something,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
it was like Darren Day doing like Any Dream Will Do. I'd not seen somebody that enthused about something before, and I just remember I think that's when the penny dropped for me. So tell me about your first show that you did.
I was in one of those school plays. It was Gregory's Girl, and I was like, I wasn't the girl he ended up with, but there were like three girls at the end of Gregory's Girl and I was
Yeah.
one of the three girls. I can't remember much more, but I really wanted to use my Scottish accent, but we ended up not doing it in Scottish, which was a
Oh
shame.
no. Oh, that's a shame. How did you remember the words though? Because this is the thing, like, because you've done quite a lot of acting. Well, I know you've done bits and pieces over the years, but one of the things, like, I too have done like some productions, but I'd only got like kind of very small roles, 20 lines in total. I'd get a character that would just basically take over the show. So I'd be like, I'd just exaggerate it. Like, so for example, if they're like, oh, he's Scottish, I'd be like, coming drunk with like a bottle. I'd be like, I ain't one, you know, whatever, just to try and steal the show. But like, I kind of cheated a bit because I had like so few lines. I was just like, I just wanted to kind of make an impact in this play when I'm just like an incidental character. And the thing is like I would change the lines as well, basically create my own character, and then they'd be a little bit like director be like, what the fuck's going on there? Like that's
But your fellow actors love getting all the wrong cues as well.
well, I mean that was it. I'd get like this kind of stony stare from across the stage, and they'd be like, what the hell are you doing? I was more like conscious of trying to remember the damn lines than trying to like bounce off people.
Some people find it really easy. I didn't. I
Yeah,
used to like just record it into my phone. I never found it easy. It's not the most fun part of being an actor at all. It's just something that you have to do. But with like, I did loads of Shakespeare, like open air tours around the country and stuff. And actually, Shakespeare a lot of the time is easier because you get a lot of the iambic pentameter, and quite often it would rhyme, which would help. Just remembering, really, try and not think that you're acting and just think you're having a conversation with that person. And
yeah,
the way you know your next line is because of what they just said to you, and just really listening to people. But there was a show that I did. It wasn't a show; it was like a rehearsed
yeah.
reading, but it was still a performance. I sang in that just like one song at the end. It was like a play with, but it had a song at the end. So that was the first time I did it in front of sort of 250 people or whatever it is there, 300. But
Mm,
luckily, the character's really emotional at that time because my
yeah.
voice was really shaking. I was so nervous because I don't sing,
Oh,
and
it's so nerve wracking though, isn't it?
you do
Like,
it all
I
the
mean, I think
time.
it's like one of those things, the more you do it, the more you get comfortable doing it. But I remember even before I got into music, I had auditioned for like these musicals, and bear in mind I must have been about 8 years old, and you had to bring sheet music down with you. I literally had this book when you're teaching you bloody recorder. You imagine all these bloody kids with recorders going and it was like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So that was the only bit of sheet music that I had. So I had to go to this audition, bring this sheet music and sing Twinkle. And I thought I gave the best rendition of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I just remember like leaving the audition thinking, I got this, I got this. And then like my mum like breaking the news and being like, oh, I'm really sorry, but you didn't get the part because like fucking Gertrude, he's like had like breastfed musicals from like a young age has like got the part. I don't know. I think there's something about resilience, isn't there? You step out of your comfort zone a little bit as you go, and then you kind of just get a bit more used to finding things difficult or rejection. It's no surprise that you kind of went from doing a lot of stage work to then composing. We always laugh about having really good collaborators, but there's that thing of when you meet your tribe and you're like, okay, these people kind of get me, they understand what I'm about. I'm picturing now back to when I met you. What was your kind of first impression of meeting kind of singer songwriters and producers and artists and being all together? What was kind of going through your head? How did it feel? Because bear in mind, you'd been in more of a kind of, you know, a twirly, can I say? Is that
Yeah.
allowed? More of a lovey, and then suddenly you've got some probably die-hard singer-songwriters who might have got more of a technical or more of a gigging thing. I'm just really curious to know what, was it intimidating? Was it exciting? Was it scary?
All of the above, really. But overall, I did definitely not with everyone, because I think now the people
Yeah.
that you've got together
Mm,
um through Song Sanctuary, it's much more
mm.
honed, kind of the kind of people that you naturally spend time with. I did feel like, oh my gosh, everyone's got so, well, not everyone, but lots of people that felt like they had a lot more experience than I did, because they did.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think also people project in that environment because, if I'm honest with you, I was kind of coming into it as say seasoned singer songwriter, but I had been performing, I had done gigs, but I think there's a bit of you that I'll say like showing your willy off to people because you're a bit like, look, I can, I've done this, I can do this, and you want to sort of show that you are valid, and so I can understand it's kind of in that environment. There's a lot of people like trying to do the same thing and assert themselves. And what I really have admired actually from sort of watching your journey is that you've kind of carved your own space in it, because I feel like now you enter into a session with, you've definitely got your own kind of sense of what you can do and bring to that session. And like it doesn't matter really that you don't even play an instrument. You're very much like, I always see you as like somebody who's very much on the lyrics and the melody and the concept, and you're somebody who's really good to have in a session for sure.
oh, thank you.
I thought it'd be really nice to talk a little bit about one of our tracks that we are working on at the moment, which is coming out soon, which is Seven Times. You and I have been working together as part of the Song Sanctuary. I brought a brief to the table that I would really like to write about a certain period in my life. We ended up with this song called Seven Times. So for context, on average, it takes a person 7 times to leave a coercive relationship. I came into the songwriting session with kind of quite a clear brief in my mind about what I wanted to write about. One of the things I really appreciated is just to have that kind of safe space to come into a session. What I really enjoyed about that session, firstly, was the fact that you were such a good listener. You kind of like develop ideas, and I remember the whole time you were like scribbling down notes, really holding the space, which I really appreciate.
Actually, we spent such a long time talking, didn't we? You already had a lot of the ideas of what, like you say, what you
Yeah.
wanted to do. I think we definitely had the time to have those conversations, input, and it was just a really nice day, actually.
Come in with an idea and it be heard and it be listened to. I felt really heard and felt like it was a really safe space. It was a difficult subject to write about because you and I had obviously formed a friendship at this point, so I obviously felt very comfortable like working with you. But the fact that I felt I could come into a session and talk about a very difficult part in my life was just it's kind of very therapeutic. And I think we forget sometimes that when you come into a songwriting session, you've got your eyes set on the prize, right? You think we're going to write this hit song that's going to meet all these expectations. But I don't ever take for granted the fact of just having some air to actually come in and talk about something that's difficult and it be received and heard and understood. We're talking about, obviously it's taken a little bit of a while for it to come out,
Yeah.
but I think it's enough to actually show up and talk about it, right? I also have to take some ownership here and be like, it's a difficult subject. And lockdown hit. I'd got in 2020 and recorded it with Hattie. You've got that excitement and enthusiasm about the song that you've been working on. And to my mind, I was going to be going out and gigging it and like putting it out there and people hearing it live. And of course, like we went in and recorded it in February 2020. Well, lockdown hit like in March.
Much.
For me, I'd been trying to get playlisting on BBC, like radio. I'd kind of got to that point where I'd got such a momentum from those first releases, and I was really excited about it. And then, of course, lockdown hits, and you're kind of like, well, I want to serve this song and I want it to resonate with people. But the kind of momentum had just sort of shifted. The instinctive thing for me to do was to kind of batch up some of the tracks that I'd done before and kind of put like a temporary thing in place. It's a bit like a plaster. In hindsight, I probably might have put it out sooner, but again, we had the logistics problems because I couldn't go into the studio and do any vocals. We were just relying off like the vocals that we'd done on the main day of recording. I had this discussion with Hattie recently about ownership of songs, because when you've been writing the song and you feel the sense of ownership, but you kind of have to remember that people haven't heard it before, and in your head you've been listening to it so many times, and like now I realize actually you kind of have to let go of it a bit for it to be received. The plan is to put it out next month and to kind of put it as part of a collection of songs before the world shut down, because it's more in keeping with that time. It's kind of like putting another frame around it and being like, look, this is through the lens of where it is now, but looking back at how it was then, allowing things the time they need, like letting a body of work actually come out and not be too much like I have to have instant gratification. I just want to, as a singer songwriter, put stuff out that a collection of stuff that will take time and not have that pressure. So your patience has been much appreciated,
You're
Hollyberry.
welcome. No, I am excited that
No,
it's finally going to happen, though.
no, what I love though is that you're very like much like a little kind of knock knock on the door every now and then. Like, are you going to put the song out? Are you going to put the song out? I also feel like that sense of like, oh, I actually want to let that kind of go. But I think it was quite a difficult subject to talk about and to write a song about. And to actually draw on your life experiences of actually having been in a coercive relationship, it was difficult to go there.
Yeah. I think it's a good song, though.
It's a good song. When we did write it, it starts off with that riff. It still feels like quite an up-tempo song, even though it's got quite a dark story to it. Like, it does feel more empowering than it feels like difficult. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and definitely with the up tempo thing, absolutely. And I never really thought of that as being strange because it just seems to work.
And also working with Phil as well, like He's just such a musical maestro, isn't
Oh,
he? He's just like,
legend.
I know what a ledge. Like, he literally will pick up an instrument and be like, "Oh, is this what you're thinking?" And you're like,
It was straight away, wasn't it? Like pretty much
"Yeah."
that he did. You were like, yes, that's it. Kind of, yeah.
When I've actually performed it at like little showcase events and bits and pieces, it's gone down so well, and people, they really do resonate with it. But it's such a difficult thing to revisit. You kind of owe it to people to kind of let them take your song and resonate with it. And I think there's, I suppose, a little bit of you that just doesn't want to revisit it. It's certainly taught me that, maybe 7 years is too long. Well, 7 times 7 years.
It seems appropriate in a way, doesn't it?
It
Um,
does seem appropriate. I have learnt now, certainly since lockdown, to think about music and releases more four-dimensional, and think actually it's great if you get a chart placement or playlisted or synced on TV and film, but I think, what about actually having an afternoon with two people that really listening, that really get it, that put their life experience into it? And I think, that's what I've learned as I've gone along. So I think, to me, that's success. And like anything that happens now as that comes out is like even better. It's like the cherry on the top.
it really is. It's like, for me, I would say that has equal weight to the end result.
I have to say, like, and I know, like, just keep on saying it, but you, Adam Hope and James Christie wrote Wanderer. That just hit me so hard, that song. I want to get my mitts on that. I was like, I want that song. But I just love the fact that, James is very much like, I'm not going to settle for like, cliche lyrics. And I actually remember like coming into the kitchen, and bear in mind, just to give you context, this is on one of the songwriting retreats that I run. I came into the kitchen to make a cup of tea, and you're all sat there on the sofas, like you've got a laptop here and you're typing. There's kind of silence in the room, and I'm like, oh, they've had a Barney. Like, I've got it, and like Holly's lost her shit, and she's like, she's had enough. No, it wasn't. You were just like deep in thought.
Yeah, but it turned out all right. We had like, it was just like the final little bits of icing on the cake that we just wanted to get completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
See, I didn't know, because when I came into the kitchen, you all just sat there, and like there was this kind of like, like the smell of a fresh turd, like from a dog. It was like, I came in and I was like, I was a little bit like, I was Holly lost her shit, and like she's been really difficult again. No, I'm only joking. You're like the world's least difficult person. Let's talk about Kate Hall, who did the first Wondrous podcast. We did a little retreat in January. We decided to work on a brief for Kate. Bear in mind, we're in Centre Parks in Longley, which is our happy place. What I love about this session is just that we'd kind of like got into, we'd made our cups of tea, we're about to sit down and start writing. Some sessions I want to get straight into it, and sometimes it's right just to have a little sit down and a chat. But there was just something really magical about that session, because I felt like from the get go, it just sort of naturally came together.
Part of the reason that I loved it was because I nearly always do like a session that I don't just get straight into. I
Yeah,
love just talking to people. You were really helpful to Kate, just, really encourage her to just get everything out.
take the space.
Yeah,
Yeah, take the space.
obviously like sitting down with two great people and having a really good chat, and the song just after that just seemed to kind of appear, didn't it? Wasn't any kind of effort. What?
It didn't feel like, there was this huge birthing routine. I felt like we were just sort of, I'd always wanted to write like a, for like someone like Whitney Houston, or somebody who's got like an incredible voice. And like Kate is like, she's quite contemporary. She's cool. She's doing like the modern thing. She's doing her own thing. And there was a little bit of me inside that selfishly wanted to kind of give that kind of Adele moment. And I remember just hearing what she was saying, and the melody and the prose of it, and being like, oh, okay. Dun, 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 dun. What I love is that we got to that point with it, and we'd got that melody of Who's Gonna Save You. Both of you were like, No, I'm not sure that's a chorus. I feel like that's a verse, and I'm like, no, up an octave, up an octave, up an octave. And I remember as soon as she sang it up the octave, I was like, all the hairs like came up on my arm.
Yeah, that still happens sometimes
Mm,
actually when I listen to it. You were right.
mm.
You were right. Absolutely.
I feel like we had a few cups of tea and we had a chat, and then it just sort of came from nowhere.
Yeah.
I just love the fact that it made it onto that collection, and it was so timely as well because we wrote that in October and that came out in March, I think.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
like
like a
the
very
complete opposite of
a
Seven Times,
seven
really,
time.
isn't it?
Okay, that's a bit awkward, Holly. Like, don't kick a guy when he's down. If we're really honest, like when you're writing a song that's like emotional, things like grief doesn't have a time limit, does it? But I suppose you want to have that immediacy of like something being out there in the world. It's like tickets, isn't it? You buy one and suddenly it's like out there in a few weeks, and then sometimes it takes a bit longer. But I think it's still an accomplishment to actually, if an artist has cut, your track. For me, I was like over the moon that it made it onto Kate's album. I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't expect it. It was more sort of like, but I did like hustle her big. I was like, Kate, this is a really, really beautiful song. I was like, it's a gift enough to give somebody that space. And it's like, if then they need to take it away and let it. But I did bully her a lot, Holly. Like, I bullied her. I was like, put that on there, or like, I'll like throw you out of the cult.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm really pleased. Not that you bullied her, but that it worked.
Nah. Everybody needs like a little bit of bullying. What is it like coming on songwriting camps, and what do you take away from it? What do you enjoy about it?
I get to write songs with people that I know will be of a good standard, and hopefully something will happen with the song.
Yeah.
No more important for me than seeing the sort of community that you've built up, because it is definitely a very sort of, it's such a sort of wanky thing to
Yeah.
say, but it is my tribe, and it is
Yeah.
people that I know I'm going to be so happy to see when I'm driving down to Centre Parks. I kind of can't
Mm.
stop myself smiling because I know that I'm
Yeah.
soon going to be surrounded by people that I really love, who make me just feel safe and happy. And it all sounds
Yeah.
very OTT, but it's true, and it's been happening for years. And there's been times also when it's been such a wonderful escape from
Yeah.
whatever's going on in my life too over the years, and it's just been just such a complete
Mm.
joy creatively. I never thought I'd want to go to Centre Parks before I went,
Yeah.
and because it
No.
seems quite commercial, and I don't know, but it's an incredibly calming place, isn't it? Being amongst the trees.
Yeah, it's just laughing, isn't it? It's like life is quite like busy and hectic, and I love socializing with people. Like when I'm backpacking, I love like doing all of that, like little subtle ploy in the background there. But I love that. But I think a lot of it is just like being adults that can play and just being like able to have a laugh. And it's like life is too fucking serious. Like I just want to just be stupid and be silly and just be allowed to play, because when do I get a chance to do that otherwise?
You're right. I can't believe I didn't say that, because the times that we've had in our house, our lodge,
Yeah, yeah.
I literally have almost wet myself and almost been rolling on the floor at times. I can't think of any one place
Yeah,
in the world where I spend more time laughing. And it is just,
yeah.
and I think it's such therapy, especially when times haven't been easy recently. It really is like
Mm.
medicine to laugh that much.
Yeah. And I think that's like a lot of it is just like the social aspect of it, because we're also segmented as like artists. We're all like doing our own little projects. Just being able to socialize with other artists and songwriters and producers and being like, we can just literally have a chat about our lives and not even talk about music. But there's just times that like I can just feel like I can just be a kid again.
Yeah, completely. It's a very freeing thing. And actually, you've
Mm.
just reminded me another really cool thing about being with other sort of artists or musicians is knowing that they're not going to say something about, oh, why don't you put it on the radio, or you know what I mean. They all
Oh,
understand
Jesus,
the
like the cliches of everything. Like,
yeah.
oh, why don't you play it to an A&R person and get a record deal? It's like, why don't you take a dose of 21st century live, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, it does my head in. I love the fact that you wrote you'd love to work with Nile Rodgers.
I really think that I like so much stuff that there's just too much to even begin to mention. But when I try and think of who I think like their music just as a whole makes me really, I just always love it. It's always good. It always, and I think I just love dancing and just
Mm.
being happy. And yeah, writing with Nile Rodgers, I guess, also because he's got the skills that I haven't got, like the amazing riff.
One thing that he does really well is like captivating you into a song, but people just get immersed in it. They just get lost in it. But his grooves are like very much like, you know, you just takes you on a journey, right?
Yeah, totally. And even the newer stuff too, Sigala and yeah, and all that. Yeah, I just it seems like he just can't write something bad.
When you listen to like Nile Rodgers stuff, it just the melodies and the music together just it gives you this kind of like it's a feel. So I wanted to hand it over to you now. So I'm getting very terrified over here, but you had a list of questions
I
which I
do.
have not had any preparation having a look at. Often when we're working together, we're just literally chatting about music and doing things, but we don't really get into like those little kind of curious little questions. But I thought I would hand it over to you to now take on the interviewer hat and see all the questions you wish you could ask. I'm
Yeah,
going to
it's
hand over
great
to you.
actually because, like you said, like we spend so much time around other people normally when we see each other that it's
Mm,
actually really nice to have this chat, just the two of us. So
yeah.
all these things that I would actually like to know, but I've never had time. I've actually written it down.
Are you going to put your glasses on and be like,
I have got some glasses I could put
"Oh,
on, but
I think, yeah, it's okay. I'll just imagine they're there. It's fine."
I'm always so envious to see your blogs. Like here, you casually drop in that you're just off to Italy or wherever. Not that you're showing off; it's just because you are just off there.
Showing off like a twat. Yes.
No, it's just because you're going there, and that's part of your life. But
No, I'm actually
um,
there. Like now, this is not a Zoom background. Can we just
yeah,
add?
how much
Mm,
planning is actually involved in your trips beforehand compared to say if someone was going on a
yeah.
package holiday?
With weddings, it's pretty much every weekend that I will be booked, but there will be occasions where like there'll be a Sunday through to a Thursday where I'll get like 4 weeks, sometimes even 2 weeks before that I'll see I've got a little window and I'm like, okay, look, I can book something here. Like, I'll have got like in my back pocket a few ideas of where I'd like to go. And then I'm kind of, it's a little bit like, I'll look at the flights, I'll see, look, are there any cheap flights anywhere really random that I haven't been before? But also, like coming back to Lake Como, the last time I was here, I have to do things in a rush. So coming back the second time, I'm not under that pressure to like tick all of the tourist boxes. You get the other half of your little holiday, time sensitive, like booking it, knowing you've got a window, but also just being flexible with it too.
Great. So it really is that soon before, like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, like sometimes. One of the things you asked before there is like, when is the soonest that you've booked your accommodation? Have you ever done it on the day?
Yeah, yeah.
So when I was backpacking on a trip, I went from Germany into the Czech Republic and had my passport stolen.
Oh
It
God.
was the most stressful experience of my life. But I ended up meeting like these amazing people at the hostel. It's the first time I've ever done it where I haven't had a hostel to book that day and I've just gone like completely without accommodation. And for somebody who's so organized and on the detail, it was very stressful, but it was actually really liberating because I'd lost my passport. The one thing that kind of is your safety blanket, I was kind of in that zone where like nothing actually matters now. I don't exist. I can't like get back home. Well, it means I can have a good time. Ended up having the most amazing few days in Prague, met some incredible people. For somebody so anxious and so out of their comfort zone, it was really liberating. And I just thank God that happened, because it just kind of made me be a lot more enjoy the moments, don't sweat on the detail. And believe me, when you don't have a passport and you're in like a Czech police cell, like trying to get an emergency travel document, it's the most stressed I've ever been, but it was also the most free I've ever been.
God, it's really unusual kind of balance of emotions.
Yeah. A lot of it is just not being balanced is a good thing, because in life we're so kind of sterile with our emotions. I walked into hostel, burst into tears, and the poor woman behind the counter was like, do you know what I mean? She was like, oh my God, but they were in that time when you're at your most vulnerable, people are the most kind and supportive. It was humiliating having lost it. But now I understand. I had my ADHD diagnosis like 2 years ago. I understand now how I lost my passport in the first place. I look back at it with a completely different lens. That's empowering. It's shown me that I can thrive in really difficult conditions. But it was really difficult, but it was also really fun and exciting and scary and shit your pants time too.
Was that the most scary sort of travel experience you've had, do you think?
When I was in Georgia a few years ago, I arrived into Tbilisi and I was trying to find my hostel, and there was some very, very dimly lit streets, and all of these, like, if you've ever been to like a former Soviet country, there's like dogs everywhere. Like a lot of them are street dogs, but they're all kind of got like kind of little markers and stuff. But all I could hear was this barking and these dogs like running, and I'm like going down this dingy thing, thinking I'm being chased by them. And I'm like on Google Maps, I'd plotted the route, and I'm like literally running along with the phone like this. It's like you hear this dog like in the undergrowth, but what I thought was fucking terrifying, but at the same time, probably a lot of it in my own head. I do think losing a passport is the most difficult thing that anybody will experience if they're traveling, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. I mean, when I lived in New York, I lost mine on a night out once. But I lived there, so it wasn't some urgent thing to get it back. But it's
Mm.
still, yeah, it's different if you're, in transit kind of thing, or yeah.
But you don't exist. That's the thing. I think people don't realize it is like how important that tiny little booklet of pages is, because it's your identity. And when that's gone, you're just kind of left on your own devices. And whilst, you can get an emergency travel document and there's things that you can do, you don't exist. If you can't check into a hostel without a passport.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, and that's one of the things. Like when I went into that hospital, hostel in Prague, I couldn't even give them ID because my passport was the only thing. Fortunately, had got a scan of like a driving license, but they've obviously got protocols for people who've had their passport stolen. But it's that kind of sense of not knowing what to do or where to go. And if you don't know what to do, if you've lost a passport, you've got to just learn. And I remember like just phoning up like my mum and being like, what the fuck am I going to do? I was backpacking in Israel, like my cards weren't working. I had to hitchhike to like get to a hostel, and you learn this kind of resilience from travel that just these things you can't be prepared for every eventuality in life. Sometimes you have to be smacked in the face with your passport being stolen.
Yeah, I guess it's all very much of a learning, like you say, resilience experience.
Those experiences have reduced my anxiety. I'm quite an anxious person in general. Having been in very high anxiety situations, it lowers the overall anxiety for everything.
Yeah, I guess
That's how I look at
anything
it
in life,
anyway.
isn't it? Really, just the worse things have been, the less bad everything else
Yeah.
is afterwards. But so, like situations like that, I think one of the other questions I had was like when you're traveling, because I always feel when I was little, I spent some
Yeah.
time growing up in France, and so and then we would go to France like 3 times a year as well, and I was
Yeah.
always able to. I went to play school in France and briefly and stuff. I was always very able to speak the language.
The one thing I do know from just learning a few like phrases in different languages is how much that means to somebody. One experience I had was I was in Georgia, right near where the Russia border is. Been invited into like this Georgian family's house up in the mountains,
Oh, I think I saw the
and
photos. Yeah.
yeah, and fortunately, one of their relatives could speak Russian and English, and it was me and these two Australians, and they gave me the honor of like giving a toast to the family. But of course, I can't speak Georgian, so with my limited like ability to connect with people, the translator was translating what I was saying into English into Georgian. And I remember we'd had like these shots of cha-cha, which is like local, like it's just basically death in a glass, but you drink it and it's like you are real Georgian if you drink it. Georgian lady, she'd got this really long hair, and obviously I was absolutely shit faced of drinking these fucking shots.
Gotcha.
So like I was like, me, I've got no filter anyway. So I was like, I thought, fuck it, I'm gonna try and make her laugh. So her hair like came over here, and I was like, got it over my face, and I'm like, hey, look, I'm Stalin. And there was this little moment of like where I thought, I'm gonna get fucking lynched in the village. They're gonna fucking hang me for the tree. This roar of laughter that I've never seen before. She was crying with laughter.
Oh,
She
thank God.
phoned her friend on Facebook and they were like, oh, we love this English guy, whatever. And it's because I took a risk. It's because I found whatever common ground that I had. And I was like, I'm going to make this person laugh. I can't talk the language, but they're going to see that I've taken a risk. That moment is one of my favorite travel memories because actually, in that moment, I felt like probably most safest I've ever been up in this tiny mountain village in the middle of nowhere. But laughter, food, and alcohol, those are the things that bring everybody together. That's why I think in certainly Georgian culture to be invited to give a toast to a family is like such an honor. That does level people too. Like I know alcohol shouldn't be a leveler, but ultimately, would we have had
I
that
get you.
connection otherwise? Maybe not. Just feeling that you can. I mean, even being invited into someone's home is like such an honor.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
didn't tell you what happened afterwards, though, did I?
Don't think so.
You probably saw from like one of the videos. We were walking back. I'd had about 8 shots of the cha-cha, and I'm walking. Bear in mind, it's on this mountaintop. I'm going down this hill. Next thing I know, the floor just jumped up into my face. I fell over and I basically bashed my head on the floor, cut my head open. Fortunately, the Aussies were both nurses.
Oh,
So
right.
like they're basically like hobbling me back to like the hostel that we're staying at. I've got this huge gash on my head. Bear in mind that stuff is like I don't know what percentage it is, but
Just the
I
name,
started
Chacha, it sounds like
hallucinating.
dangerous to me.
Chacha, oh Jesus, woman! I remember like hallucinating that I was in this kind of I was in Thailand staying at this hostel and I'd lost my wallet and everything. And then I woke up in the morning. Don't even tell me how I did this. I was on the balcony of the hostel like this, like kind of like woke up. Just where the fuck am I? I just was like, oh, okay, just rock on down, have the breakfast with everyone, like, hi. Fucking huge like gash on my head.
But you were all right.
Well, I mean, you're starting to see like the after effects of it.
I had another like band question. Have you ever had a situation like a snowstorm or anything like that, or a situation where you've had to
Shitstorm.
get to an event and it's been really dramatic and traumatic and
Yeah, so I wouldn't say traumatic, but we did like a corporate event, kids that we either fostered or adopted, and they had booked us given the fact that they thought it was going to be blazing hot sunshine. So it wasn't, there wasn't like a marquee or anything. And bear in mind, this is the very early days of me running this as a band. So for me, I was like, oh, they've got a marquee, it'll be fine. We arrived, and when I tell you it was a fucking monsoon, like it was literally like just pissing down to the point where like you could have been swept away with it. And I remember like the client came out and we were in the car and we like pulled the window down and all this water was like gushing down from the sky. And he's like, guys, do you think you'll still be able to do the gig? And I was like, It's like had that kind of moment where I'm like, hmm, I don't know if I fancy electrocuting my bandmates, but I was like, let's see what we can work with here. So he's like, look, I've got like a gazebo that was in the back of the car because we were going to perform under the gazebo. But obviously, all of the clients would have then been out in the like torrential rain.
Mhm.
So I was like, look, what is it being adjoined to? What's powering it? So he was like, well, look, we've got these stables here. Like, is there like, can you hook up the power from there? And I was like, well, look, if we join this gazebo to the stable, we could perform inside the stable and the kids could go underneath the gazebo. So I remember like James, our drummer, is actually in the manger of like the stable playing drums. He's got like a bit of like hay, like bit of a
Oh, I
horseshoe in
love
his
it.
face. And we've adjoined it to it. And the kids, I mean, they don't give an absolute shit. They're just having the time of their lives underneath this like gazebo that we put up. I mean, bear in mind, obviously, we made sure it was safe. No children were harmed in the making of this. And then we did the gig. I mean, it was a bit like, balls to the wall. It's kind of thinking on your feet. And ultimately, if we had to just kind of adjust it so there's just two of us playing and there's some people inside, we'll do what we can do, but we have to kind of be realistic too, right?
Yeah. I do remember having sort of similar situations when I was doing the open air Shakespeare, and just I remember once like we
Fucking
were
hell.
performing like literally the pouring rain and everyone's hair's just literally
Oh no. And you're like,
the audience are all there with their umbrellas, and we're just carrying on.
basically dying of hypothermia. And you're like, to be or not to be? That is the question.
Have you
Okay.
had a situation yet where anyone's rebooked you because they booked you for a wedding and then they got divorced and then they have either a divorce party or they get married?
No. No, you get the wide berth if that happens, and it's happened, I think, to two of our like clients. What I would assume from being friends with them, like when I see them with another guy, I'm like, but each to their own. But mostly, we'd get rebooked from people having their anniversaries
Oh, that's not, yeah.
or like 50s. So most of our customers are like between the ages of 25 and 40. So if they've booked us and they've got married and they're in their 30s, they're more likely to book us for their 40th, which is really lovely because I feel like we've already got that connection with them anyway. But like a lot of our bookings are recommendations. So there'll be people that have been at the wedding or a family member. And like that is the best advertising ever because they've seen you in person, they've experienced what you do. So I think for us, a lot of it is just like we've had it recently where we did like a wedding for a couple and then we were booked for their 50th, and it's lovely because you know them so well because you've been there on their happiest day. And I think that's the one thing that like I never really anticipated from being in the kind of wedding industry is that connection that you forge with people. It's kind of like they're like my friends on Facebook now, and they're people that we did a first dance for a couple and it was one of my original songs. And
Complete.
it's like, yeah, complete. And it's like that is the real dream, is to like have that connection with them. And I think that's what's kept me doing it for so long. And I think for me, as I go into the future, I want to bring those worlds together. I want to be able to say, look, I write original music. I would be happy to perform a song that I've written if it's appropriate, if it feels right. But I think also that connection, they're the people that want to stay in touch with you after you've done your wedding. So I think that's really sweet.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
I'm not surprised because it is such a special thing. And
I
I'm
think we
hugely
forget
envious.
it. I think you forget like what you're doing. And I know that sounds like a little bit dim. You get so wrapped up in providing a service for people that you forget that you're providing something special. We're all guilty of it. And I don't think that we do that on purpose. This couple that I did that first dance for, I met them in Brighton and we went for a drink. And normally when I have my client calls with them, we're on a Zoom, not on a Zoom call, but we'd be on a phone call. But they were just like, look, we're coming to Brighton anyway. We'd love to, are you free? And I was like, yeah, like I've got like a few hours before we go to the wedding. I'd love to catch up with you. Went and sat and had the most amazing chat, amazing connection. I'm like, oh, these are actually my people. Then when you go to work, you feel like you're a guest at their wedding. And their guests feel more happy because they feel like they're with another guest. And then suddenly you're in this environment where you've had a few cocktails and you're like, God, do sing your first dance. I'm a little bit drunk right now
No.
because I've forgotten that I'm at work. And then I'm like, oh, shit. I've done that before. Like, I've done that at a wedding where the bridesmaids were like, oh, would you come and do a few shots in the kitchen? It was like
Oh
they're
no.
got married in their parents' garden. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll just go in for a shot. It wasn't just a shot, Holly. It was like aftershock. The bride was like, yeah, let's do this. And she's absolutely wasted. The bridesmaids are wasted. And then as I step out of the kitchen, I realise I've got two odd shoes on. Somehow I've managed to pack two left like boots, and I've got two left boots on, so I've got to go and do the first dance. I've got two left boots on, and I'm like stumbling down. The bridesmaids are literally ripping the piss out of me. And then I've got to go and put my game face on and like do this. This is what I've learned: is like, look, don't drink the free alcohol. Just enjoy the day, but like, don't get too carried away with it. But it was so funny me trotting down with these two left boots on.
I was wondering roughly, like, what sort of budgets can you do the kind of things that you do on?
Bear in mind, what I used to do is reverse engineer from the flight backwards. So I'd go into Skyscanner, I'd be like, take me anywhere, and from Gatwick. And then it would give you like Italy, Spain, like Norway, wherever it is. Staying in a hostel can be anything from like £12 to £30 a night.
Okay.
So bear in mind that like a 4-day trip, if you were like really on a budget, you could do it for under £200.
Well, what with the flights and everything?
Yeah.
Great.
If you self catered and just used the kitchen and the hostel, you could probably even do it for less. It's worth staying in accommodation that is of a lower quality if you know you're going to have like really good company. And looking at the reviews, that's the first thing I do. I just check, is there a common area? Is there a kitchen? That would be the first thing I look at. But you could easily do a trip to Europe for less than 150 quid.
Wow. God, that is possible then, isn't it?
Yeah, it is really possible. I always just say that if you just literally book it, you'll work out the rest, even if you have to pack your own sandwiches. I met this girl when I was staying in Montenegro. She had basically got 2 years booked for her travel. She knew that she was shit with her money. So what she did was she booked all of her hostels and paid in advance. Well, she spunked all her money in the first like 6 months of the trip. So she had no money left, but she'd somehow managed to get like little transfers and paid for accommodation. She used to survive by like cooking all the bits in the hostel kitchen. There's like, whenever you go to a hostel, there'll be like a little shelf that says free food.
Is that stuff
And
that
she
people
would
have
make,
left or what?
people have left. So she would make like a pasta dish with like a little bit of like, somebody left a little bit of basil, there'd be a bit of cheese on there. She'd make these really elaborate meals and like
That's so cool.
somehow I know, and she was so cool. She got like the shaved head, and like I just, when you just kind of like in awe, you kind of fall in love with someone. You're like, oh my god, you're like, just kind of fangirling. This poor girl was like, who the fuck is this weirdo? But I was just like, how have you managed to do it? She was like feral, but she'd like scavenge from the hostel.
It
It was
sounds like maybe she
crazy.
shaved her head so that she didn't have to buy shampoo and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking wise, fucking wise. I've had so much fun.
Me
It's been
too.
really,
Thank you
really
so
good
much.
fun.
It's great to talk to you for like uninterrupted for an hour and a half.
Yeah, looking back at it, it's like all of these little things, like you're going to see theatre for the first time. Just even things you're reminding me about now that like little dormant little travel experiences, and we forget them. Yeah, it's just nice just to talk about the music and keep it alive and keep it moving. And I'm going to make a pinky promise. You ready? That's not me telling a lie. That's like pinky promise. 7 times. Going to get that out in the next month. Right, pinky,
Really?
pinky, pinky.
Oh wow.
Pinky promise. That's it. Is that a pinky? I see the pinky. So, Holly, where can people find your music? Instagram?
I'm on Instagram, holly.dash.berry on all streaming platforms.
So, currently, people can check out Heartbeat. That's just been released recently. You've got another collaboration coming up with Mike.
Yeah, with Mike Harley.
And apart from that, just follow Holly's Instagram, and hopefully we'll get some new tracks in the future. But thank you very much, Holly Berry.
Thank you for having me.